yourself. Hello, everyone. Right then. Refresh that to the beginning. How are we doing today? Let's see. Is it all working? That's always the question. Is it working? Yes, it's working. That is very good. Helpfully, at this moment, someone has chosen to come to our front door, and hence the fluffy research assistant is now bidding them hello. In the friendly, very friendly, I'm a big dog. Why are you disturbing my evening? I'm about to have some biscuits and enjoy a nice, relaxing time before an evening walk. Why are you disturbing my evening? It's all true, good, friendly British puppy dogs do say. So, hello, Carl von Gasberg. Hello, John Shea. Hello, Albert Lasky. Hello, Carl Harmon. Hi, DGV40. Hello, Felix B. I'm glad you're enjoying the Alps. Switzerland has just voted to procure a new fighter aircraft, which is kind of interesting to replace their old F-18s. About time too, but I'm surprised that when they were first looking at it, they were thinking about procuring the Gripen, which had been probably the best option to go with, and now it's sort of too late to go with the Gripen, so they're going to have to go with something far more expensive. But that's completely off today's route of march. But I was chatting about it earlier with people. Tim Sims, hello. This is my first live chat here. Glad to have made it. I'm glad you've made it. Welcome. Hello, Jay Inworth. Hello, Dunrick Ironhammer. Hello, Aviator Enterprise. Hello, Carl Harmon. Adverts again. Yes, they happen because that's, well, part of books at the moment. Glad it's all good at your end. Sav Thompson, just like afternoon, Doctor. Hoping to have DGG64 for you tonight. She's grown and lost some toys. Oh, cool. Jack Hunter, hello, Derp Squad. Tonight on Naval History, Dr. Hart, the activities. No. Co-presented by Derp Squad and Carl von Gasberg. That would be an interesting one, but tonight is the Cretan War, which I keep calling the Cretan War, but it's the Cretan War. Hello, Boundhome. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're well. Hi, Jeff Bieler. Hello, Nictasia. Doctor, sometime we need to see Mr. Fluffy research in line streams. He's going to probably be in them far more often when I get my office downstairs, because then he'll be up there more often. And there might be... he might not be alone, but we'll leave that to one side. Hello, Golden Eagle. Hello, Daniel Freeman. Felix B. Well, the fighters were voted for by about 8,000 votes plus, so less than 50.1%. Yeah, I heard that. That was tight. Tim Sims, I'm Captain Shambles on Discord. I will remember this. Jeff Bieler, Dr. Clark doesn't want us to know that the Black Man was an early Henderson project. No, it wasn't. In fact, I can actually produce you quotes from Henderson and who else? I think Vian also both of them ended up going for a flight in a Blackburn at different points, and both of them decided that they were absolutely terrible. Right, thank you, Jay. Hello, Greg Sosowski. Hello, Matthias Stavik. Hello. I don't think I've said hello to you before, so hello. Hello, everyone. Well, so first things first, I'm going to put on a light. Hello, Yickers. Because that makes things slightly better and me slightly more less weird looking. I'm going to do that so I can see the screen a bit better. Now, I have my notes. And in a slight difference from normal, the introduction video is actually going to come after this. And the reason is because the introduction video didn't work as introduction videos. It only worked as a long patrol because it is such a long conflict, being 24 years, that each introduction video you spend The first one's fine. Then the second one, you have to recap the first one and then start the second one. The third one, you have to recap the first and second one and do the third one. Then you have the fourth one, you have to recap the first, second, and third one and do the fourth one. The fifth one, you had to recap the first, second, third, fourth, and then the fifth one. And you got slowly less and less time to get them in and sort of under the sort of half an hour line, which is where I like the introduction videos to be. So I decided to end up going with an hour-long patrol video, and I've scheduled it for 9 o'clock this evening because this will end at 8:30 this evening because I have got something which I've got to go do at about 9 o'clock. So that is when the introduction, sort of the lecture video is coming out. Carl Harmon, well, Dr. Clark, what do you think the Swiss will procure? Well, considering they already operate Hornets, it's got to be either Eurofighters or Super Hornets. So it depends if they decide to go European or American, because I doubt they'll want to jump in the F-35 project. There's always the random thing they could end up going with F-35Bs, because that would be very sensible considering the limited airfield space in Switzerland, but I doubt they would. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Hello, Artito Mastron. Dunrick Ironhammer. The last one be recaps followed by and then the war ended. Good night. Pretty much. It was when the first attempt to recording ended up with 8 videos, and that was pretty much the last one. I, at that point, went, okay, this is not going to work. I'm going to have to figure out a different way to do this. Gary Sarsi, not Gripens. They're not what they were. When they were first looking at it, they're not what they were. Anyway, we're getting very, very far off topic, but it's an interesting one. Gaharman, I think Eurofighter has a lot of close neighbors use a Typhoon and relatively affordable. Yes and no. The same was said for various other projects. Traditionally, the Swiss, if it's what all their neighbors are using, they do go for something different. Because they don't want to get mistaken identity going on. But that becomes an interesting, complicated scenario for them. Right. So, the Cretan War. So, why am I looking at this? Why am I looking at the Cretan... Hello, Strub. Why am I looking at the Cretan War? Why do I think people should study it? Why, when I'm giving lectures on strategy, on national procurement and all these things, do I put it forward as a good thing to study? Excuse me a second. That's a bit more. Sorry, it was just bugging a bit. Because the Cretan War is a time when maritime power fails, and the reason it fails is because of the application of it. Okay, what is interesting is how it happens and what happens. So I'm going to expand this quickly. So, the Cretan War, and I'm not attempting to pronounce the Greek or the Turkish. I have managed to muck them up quite regularly. But it's otherwise known as the War of Candia, in Italian, Guerra di Candia, and Serbian Croat, Kandishki Rat, or as the Fifth Ottoman Venetian War, if you want to be that one. It involves the Republic of Venice and her allies, the Knights of Malta and the Papal States in France, and the Ottoman Empire and their vassal allies, the Barbary States. So it's sort of fun, and below is one of the many paintings of Candia and its siege. It is a very, very long, hard war. It's 24 years long. The Siege of Candia alone is 21 years long. Okay? This is not a quick war. Right, so what happens? Well, there have been relative peace between Venice and the Ottoman Empire for roughly 60 years prior to this war. Prior to that, previous to that, there had been all sorts of wars, but there had been peace. And the Venetians had religiously stuck to the terms of the treaties. They had kept on negotiating with the Ottomans. This meant the Ottomans didn't really have legitimate grounds for war. And it's kind of interesting that the Ottomans were kept searching for legitimate grounds for war because they still wanted Crete. Why did they want Crete? Crete was a very prosperous, very important colony of Venice. It was very rich. It was a trade hub. It had a thriving population, a thriving community. It was excellent. But it was all Venetian. Now, in 1644, what happens quite regularly during this period is the Knights of Malta cause trouble. Knights of Malta cause trouble because they are the type that cause trouble. Basically, if I was putting this in a modern context, and I don't mean this in a sort of dictatorial way or etc. I'm saying this in a strategic foreign policy perspective. If Venice is China, North Korea, the Knights of St. John are North Korea. They're this small, heavily armed group which keep bashing heads with everyone else. And occasionally they drag Venice in with them. And this is what happens, because basically in 1644, on the 28th of September, so if we want to do some maths, this is some interesting maths going on. It's 376 years ago, yesterday, roughly. The Knights of Malta attack an Ottoman convoy on its way from Constantinople to Alexandria, with carrying a whole lot of pilgrims bound for Mecca. It's really not a good scenario for anyone. And what's worse is, some of these people are actually quite important. There is the exiled Kisla Aga, or Chief Black Eunuch, Sirbel Aga, the Cadi of Cairo, and the nurse of the future Sultan Mehmed IV. Sirbel Aga gets killed during the fight, and 350 men and 30 women were taken to be sold as slaves. Now, here is what happens. So, Venice hasn't ordered it. Venice hasn't supported it. Venice hasn't been involved at any point. But what do the Knights of St. John's do? After they've attacked the convoy, they load the loot onto a ship. The ship stops off in Crete for about 3 days. It sells some of the slaves there. It sells some of the sailors go ashore there. But that's it. And then it goes on to Malta. The hawks in the Ottoman court seize on this. They demand apologies from the port goes massive. The Venetians are sending out emissaries. The Venetians are basically telling the Knights of St. John, well, look what the frick you've done this time, Eric. Because the trouble is, in the last 60 years of peace, the Venetians haven't really secured Crete. They've put in a lot of plans. They've started a lot of defenses. They've started a lot of fortifications. It's a lot of 75-80% fortifications. But they haven't completed them. They haven't properly invested. Ooh. Hypothetical, slightly off topic, but a hypothetical has just come in from Tim Sims. Lion, Princess Royal, and Tiger get the Haruna treatment. All three have Q turrets landed and extra weight used for new AA guns and armor. How useful do you think they would have been? They could have been fun, but if you still got the treaty limitations, I'm not sure I'd have kept them around rather than other things. So if I'd had them as extra to the treaty limits somehow for some reason, yeah, they'd have been very useful. But if I had to pick them or the Queen Elizabeth or the R's to save in the 1920s, I'd have picked the others first. Google Golden Eagle. I always enjoy you talking, but you've just said King John On is nothing if not smart. His intellect is very underrated. I don't underrate his intellect. I do underrate his ability to understand when he's going to go too far. Leaving that to one side. And again, in Tim Sims, they would have been useful, but if I have to pick them or something else under the limitations, I still pick the other things. Although, frankly, I'd have preferred more Queen Elizabeth class than Royal R classes. But anyway, back to this. So, the Venetians, despite ongoing negotiations in 1645, an expedition is quickly assembled with over 50,000 troops and reputedly 416 vessels. And the Venetians actually believe it when they're told that this, all being assembled under Capudian Pasha Sidar Yosef Pasha, the Sultan's son-in-law, is going to Malta. They make no formal announcements, they just infer it's going to Malta. And the Venetians sort of think, we're probably going to get all this anyway, but we don't. At least they're not coming to us. And, however, when we say that, this is their surprise on a tactical level, therefore, because they don't pick up the signals when they receive it. However, on a strategic level, they had actually deployed a new Provedor General, who's in charge, basically the guy in charge of Crete, and Andrea Corna, who had been doing his level best for the previous year, mostly, to get the Cretan defenses actually into some state. And this actually works quite well. Now, this makes them, how do I put this, unprepared locally. And when I say unprepared locally, the Ottomans achieve a great deal of success and manage to take things quite quickly. However, despite deploying 50,000 soldiers, despite deploying 416 vessels, they don't take the island. They don't take the whole island. They, in fact, don't get that much of it initially at all. Their logistics starts to let them down, and frankly, they look a bit silly. They do look a bit silly for a bit. Oh. Right. So, this leads to a very interesting war overall, because Venice is lucky. They are lucky in that they have good leaders and they have a lot of luck. But they are unlucky in that they are fighting a far, far larger force. Now, usually when I'm bringing up this scenario, I'm explaining that despite having maritime supremacy, and, well, not quite maritime supremacy, but definitely the far stronger maritime strength, and being far more successful at sea battles, they managed to lose a war over an island because of the way they handle their forces. And this is what we're going to get in at. So, Venice could not directly confront the 416 ships. Surprise, surprise, they didn't have enough ships for that. Because they have between 60 and 70 galleys. There's debate on those, and if even Wikipedia can't make up its mind, I'm not going to try. In 4 galleases. Now, galleases are galleys which have been sort of upgraded and also carry cannon and are sort of quite sort of bigger, stronger vessels, slightly fatter, and 36 galleons with cannon. The Ottomans initially have only a galley navy, and eventually, especially the Ottomans, are hiring sailing ships from other nations. The Dutch and the always happy to turn up armed and ready to rumble against Catholic powers. English! Yes, we're here. We're going to shoot you. We're here. We're the English. It's quite disturbing. There is one story which is that King Charles, at one point, King Charles II, his wife is pressing him most urgently to get involved in the defense of Candia, to try and relieve this poor Christian city under siege for so long by the Muslim hordes, as they sort of putting it forward at the time. And whilst he is listening to her and apparently listening to her most earnestly and writing letters and all these things, he's also investing in several armed merchantmen which go out and fight for the Ottomans and earn him a nice big fat profit. So that is a man who is toying with fire in the marital relations. On topic, the English Cretan War is coming at the same time as the English Civil War, the 30 Years' War, and some of the Anglo-Dutch Wars. Yes, there's quite a lot of fighting going on elsewhere. That's really sort of kind of interesting. Nick Days here. The 3 incomplete admirals would have been a better idea to look for completion. I presume this is back to the earlier discussion about the battle cruisers. Yeah, if they'd been going to the battle cruisers, yes, but keeping them would have been far more sensible. But it's fun times. The Venetians are barely capable, and whilst they don't really attempt to blockade the Dardanelles in 1646 and 1645, well, they do, but they don't really get great results. They do sweep the Aegean, so Karl von Gasberg is going to be happy, of quite a lot of the threats. They don't quite get into the Adriatic, but they do a lot of fun in the Aegean. So, now, to interdict the supplies headed to the Ottoman forces in Crete, a force of 23 Venetian ships, please listen to this, 23 Venetian ships under Tommaso Morrissini scoured the Aegean for Ottoman shipping and attempted to capture the strategically important island of Tenedos at the entrance of the Dardanelles. Now, this is 23 ships, and they are mostly sailing ships. Okay, the Venetian force in this case is mostly sailing ships under the command of Tommaso, as I understand it. Anyway, gentleman the right of the title of Kapudian Pasha Kirka Musa, leading a fleet of 80 warships, attempts to fight them. So, you've got 80 versus 23. Who wants to guess who wins this battle? You are right, it's the Venetians! Yes, Tommaso Morrissini manages to push the Ottomans back into the Dardanelles. However, winds change in June, and the Ottoman galleys are able to evade the Venetian sailing ships and get away in June to land more troops and supplies on Crete. And the Venetian fleet it proves, whilst dominant at the sea is not due to issues of pay, not arriving, command differences, allies being annoying, and widespread plague, doesn't actually get involved in the land fight. So the navy doesn't really start raiding or doing anything on the Ottomans ashore in Crete. So the Ottomans have had another year to build up on Crete. Now, in 1647, and this is a battle I want you to think about, Tommaso Morrissini, who is a very, very good commander, gets in a fight solo with just his flagship versus 45 Ottoman galleys. Tommaso gets killed, but he manages to write off 30 of the galleys. His ship survives, and the Ottomans are basically beaten up. So, one sailing ship, 45 galleys, and it's the one wins. And still, the Venetians aren't able to turn this into a big victory. They aren't able to turn this into a massive success which wipes out the Ottomans off Crete or anything like that. No, they just carry on. Oh. There's a whole lot of fun going on in the chat. Right. So, Morrissini dies, and then a new Captain General arrives. Giovanni Battista Grimani. Unfortunately, he doesn't build. He has a successful raid on Sesame, but he doesn't manage to blockade Ottoman harbors or stem the flow of supplies and reinforcements to Crete. So the Ottoman troops are building up again and again in Crete. And it's just, they're just getting out of hand. They really are. They really are getting out of hand. And in 1648, the Venetians returned to the Dardanelles. And despite Grimani getting killed in a storm along with losing many ships, the reinforcements under Giancampo de Riavina arrive and bring the Venetian strength up to a strength of 65 vessels. And these manage to successfully blockade the Straits for the entire of 1648. However, the Ottomans are resupplying the troops in Crete from places like Alexandria, Rhodes, all over the place. They're getting supplies through to Crete. So blockading the Dardanelles does block off their largest military power, but the Venetians never really managed to have a second fleet at sea which can block the supply routes. Because really what they need is a fleet going around Crete, blocking supplies getting to it, and a fleet blocking the Dardanelles. That's what they really need. They never managed to get that level. Turning 3434, hello. Is chat just as really as your students are during class? In class, I have to tell them to be quiet because they're not supposed to be talking while I'm talking, so other people can hear. In chat, because it's silent and I'm able to watch it, I can dive in when I want to, but it doesn't interrupt everyone else listening. So I'm happy with this one. In class, I have to control it. Right. 1648 is also an important year because it's the year the Sultan, for rare times gets involved in an actual cabinet meeting, actually holds one, and decides that and I'm going to get this correct when I pronounce it. Okay. That they would go to their what's it called? That they would actually build galleons. And they have a meeting. He has all the pashas, he has all the viziers, he has everyone there he can get, and they're going to actually build galleons. And there is a huge debate over it because actually some people try and claim it's against the will of Allah for them to be employing galleons, that galleys have been blessed by them. They've always been the ones that have won victories. And basically, to the extent the Sultan makes the case that after, well, specifically citing the example of Morrissini, that perhaps Allah is showing the way. And it's kind of an interesting thing because in all these battles, I sometimes, and some discussions go on, war is always about luck. Okay, sailing is always about luck, especially once you're at sea. If a big storm rises up, that can wipe out your fleet and all sorts of things. This makes sailors and merchant commanders involved tend to be on the superstitious side of life. They don't like it. They might well have some lucky practices they do. They have religion or these sort of things, which will be part of it. So this is actually quite a big discussion. This isn't something which you write off as going, "Oh, this person is just using it to try and blanket their protection," or they are. It's something which they're using an argument, or they are silly. It's neither of those scenarios. It's a legitimate argument in their mind because of the fear of what could go wrong at sea. They make this decision in 1648. So the war has been going on for roughly 3 years, and it's taken them 3 years to decide, hang on, we need our own galleons here. Now, in 1650, the Venetians have a fleet of 41 vessels maintaining the blockade of Dardanelles, and Haidegas Mehmed Pasha is prevented from sailing to Crete. He is replaced later in the year by Homazade Ali Pasha, the governor of Rhodes, who uses a clever ploy to get through the blockade. A very, very clever ploy. We can all think about this one. This is one of the cleverest ploys in the world. He waits until winter when the Venetian navy goes home, and then he sails from Rhodes. The Venetians should have lost this war in about 5 minutes, I sometimes think. Not on a tactical level. On a tactical level, they have some very, very good commanders. On a strategic level, they have some people who actually do sort this little problem, these issues. But their wider government is just not putting the stuff in. Felix B, the Ottomans apparently didn't have Vikings on the ships anymore. Actually, that's one of the interesting discussions I do mention in the introduction video, which is now Long Patrol, which is going to come out after this, is that there is possibly some Norwegians getting involved on the side of the Ottomans. Tim Sims, I picked Lions, I'm presuming it's back to the battlecruiser discussion. I picked Lions because they existed. I was thinking they could have been disarmed and stashed, but it's kind of hindsight's on topic. Unfortunately, the Americans went to great length to make sure there was no legal way of stashing ships. And their engines would have needed to be rebuilt anyway, because even if they hadn't been overused during World War One, they would have needed to be rebuilt at about the 20-year mark anyway. That's the problem with these ships. They don't motorized engine ships don't last as long as sail ships in terms of their ability to still be used. Way too much discussion on the Blackburn. Right, so what happens is that 1650 turns into a sort of a bit of a blank year, but 1651, so the war's been going on for 5 years. They have had a battle which involved one sailing ship beating up 45 galleys, including pretty much writing off and sinking 30 of them. Yet that's not considered a significant battle. No. The first significant battle of the war takes place on the 10th of July, 1651, and is the fort south of Naxos. A 3-day engagement in which the Venetians, with 58 ships under Alvise Morsigo, beat a force of roughly 120 ships of the Ottoman fleet. The Ottoman fleet withdraws from there to Rhodes, and unfortunately, from there they are able to make it to Candia to resupply the besieging forces. But hey ho. And in true Venetian style, as you will see, Monsiego is then replaced by Leonardo Fossolo, who is one of the most conservative commanders known to mankind, and for the next 2 years, the fleet pretty much just wander round each other. So, 1651, huge battle! 120 ships are smashed! They're sent back, careening back to Rhodes. They do not win, they withdraw in ignominy, and then nothing happens. For 2 years, nothing happens. The Venetians replace. We've had a victorious commander. Let's replace him with someone who doesn't know what he's doing, but will actually not get the ship sunk. Yes. So, what have we discussed so far? We're discussing a war where you've got a maritime power who keeps winning the battles at sea, yet isn't turning this into domination of an island campaign. Let's consider the parable to the Second World War. Imagine if the US Navy had kept beating the Japanese at sea, and yet the Japanese had been able to virtually supply their forces uninterrupted on the islands. Can you imagine what would have happened to the US Navy leadership? It would have been a race between the Royal Navy leadership, the US politicians, and the US public to kill them first, in the nicest way. Yet this is what the Venetians, the maritime power, the ones who are unquestionably winning these battles, keep allowing to happen. Why? Because they don't pay people, they don't supply them, they don't do the things they need to do sensibly. Hello, Exmormist. I don't think I've talked to you before, but hello. I said in Crete 30 years ago, a friend of local boy took great delight in acting out shooting German paratroopers whilst in the air. Ooh, we've done that part of Crete, but yeah, this is another reason we've gone to Crete. I feel like, wow, in 67, the pre-popular population was 267, circa 260,000 had dropped to about 80,000. Yeah. The figure I use is 280,000 because I had a book which I really like, my Venetian book, which I've now can't find, but I think is over there, which said 280,000, so I went with that. Seem like sail ships need new ropes every 2 years or so. Down to Rossing Miller, you are in trouble. And oh yeah, well that's true, but the cost of getting new ropes versus taking a ship apart to put in entirely new engines is a slightly different matter. Grossalsi, so they were run by accountants. Yep. Death Squad. It sounds like a series of short sieges rather than 21-year siege. Because the troops never really leave, they are considered under siege for 21 years. The actual quality of that siege is a different matter. We'll get into the one in Candia. I was asking, did the Venetians ever launch their land forces to throw out Ottomans from Crete, or they were only rumbling around the sea? They were trying to land forces to do that, and they are mainly relying on the French sending land forces. And the French land forces proved to have a lot of elan, a lot of spirit, and they got themselves killed quite a lot as well. And the Venetian land forces tried their best as well, and they did quite well, but they again got a lot of them killed. So, let's go for this one. The battles of the Dardanelles. So, for 1654, the Ottomans marshaled their strength for the imperial arsenal from Thessaloniki on the Golden Horn of Constantinople, produced new warships, and squadrons from Tripoli and Tunis arrived to strengthen the Ottoman fleet. Now, let's sing this. In 1648, the Ottomans decided to build galleons, sailing ships with guns. In 6 years, they were able to amass 40. Now, about half of those were from armed merchant ships from, hello, we're not English, we promise, and hello, we're not Dutch, we promise, and hello, we may or may not be Norwegian, but you won't know, because we promise. But also quite a lot of their own. So that's pretty darn cool. They've managed to reduce quite a lot. And this fleet goes out, it's a 79 ship strong, and when it gets marshaled with the Allied forces, it rises up to 115 vessels. So that's 115 vessels. Okay. The blockading force of 26 Venetian ships are under the command of Giuseppe Dolfin, who withdraws in front of them, for example. So the does a fighting withdrawal, manages to escape intact, inflicting large casualties on the Ottomans. Then the full Ottoman fleet decides to go on and attack the Venetians, the new full Venetian force, which is about 60 ships, under the command of Alvis Mocenigo, who beats them. He's outnumbered 2-1. This is the largest largest Ottoman force of warships ever amassed, and he beats them. And they then start skirmishing around, and they basically spend an entire year skirmishing. However, finally, in 1654, well, towards the end of the year, Karamurad Pasha, in September of that year, has to withdraw his fleet. Why does he have to withdraw his fleet? Because the Janissaries are starting to campaign against him. They're agitating and, in fact, potentially making attempts on his life because they don't like being all this far distance away. They don't like being at sea. They don't like what they're being asked to do. And it's really not going well. So they have to withdraw. At this point, Alvis dies. And his role is taken over by possibly my favourite commander of the entire war, and the one I would have the most faith in, but this is the Venetians. So it's Francisco Morrissini. You would not be mistaken if you've heard that surname before. Yes, it's a relative of Tommaso. I think from what's written about him, younger brother, but could have been a cousin, or even potentially a son, because some of the Venetian commanders seem to be very, very old at certain points, and some of them seem to be very, very young at certain points. But there's a bit of a debate which goes on in different sources. I think younger brother is what I'm going with. I was asking, I've answered that question. And he has a lot of fun as commander. He raids the Ottoman supply depot at Aegea, raises the port town of Venice in a night attack of Volos, not Venice, on 23rd of March, and then sails to Dardanelles, When he finds that the Ottoman fleet are not prepared to come out because they're having political fun, he leaves Lazzaro Montiego, his second in command, with half the fleet of 36 ships to keep watch of the Straits, and returns to Cyclades. A week after his departure, on the 21st of June, the Ottoman fleet, numbering 143 ships, under Mustafa Pasha, comes out. They get beaten up. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you? You knew there was no way that a mere 143 ships was ever going to beat the Venetian Navy at this point. The Ottoman fleet then avoid action for the remainder of the year and then withdraw to winter quarters, leaving Morrissini free to undertake an ultimately unsuccessful siege of Malvisa off the southeastern coast of Peloponnese. Basically, the Venetians spend quite a large chunk of this war trying to hunt island fortresses from which they can forward base their fleet to block the Dardanelles. Now, you're sitting there because I said at the beginning already, what they really need to do to win the war if they're going to use sea power alone is blockade Crete and blockade the Dardanelles. Because they need to stop the major Ottoman fleet being able to get out, and they need to stop supplies getting to the troops ashore. Well, one of their ideas for actually being able to achieve this is if they could have a forward base close to the Dardanelles, then it would be less taxing on ships and crews to keep them there all year round, and that would mean they'd have more money free and able to raise a second fleet. That was the idea. Not really quite as successful. Norwegians are not a mix of Danish and Norwegian? Possibly, but they seem more Norwegian than names. That's good. If I use Super Chat, do people think that the Scout will join us in the worship of the Blackburn? It would have to be a very, very big Super Chat. Oh. Oh, Stephen White. Hello, Dunno. Same unknown civilians who think out of the box and give unknown age to battle forces, full of professionals who ignore them. To an extent, the trouble is when you're talking about, especially the Venetian fleet, quite a lot of the fleet are the noblemen are merchant traders who've had to fight at sea anyway, so they're professional sailors, quite a lot of them, and they know what they're doing. There is a big problem with with the Ottomans in that quite a lot of their commanders are politically reliable, not necessarily great at fighting. Anyway, in true habit for the Venetians, after this year of great success, Francisco Morrissini is made the new proveditore of Crete, i.e. he's put in charge of Crete of the ground war, and Lorenzo Marcello is made the new Captain General Sea. They have some more fighting going on the next year. But despite defeats, you have to remember, whilst the Venetians are managing to defeat the Ottoman battle fleet, it comes out the Venetians go, what? They do not have... How do I put this? Okay, so it's like the British invested just in a battle fleet and didn't bother with frigates during the Napoleonic Wars. So the French battle fleet is all locked up in its ports in Brest and Toulon and all these places and can't get out. But their fast frigates, which can operate from pretty much any port, can guard anywhere they like and do the merchant trade, do the raiding and do merchant and cover merchant trade and all these things going on. So it's very much a war which is being fought. How do I put it politely? The Venetians are almost seem to be expecting it to be a sort of have a big battle and you sue for peace. But the Ottomans aren't suing for peace. And the Venetians keep winning these battles at sea, and they're not getting any peace. They're not getting any success. Thunder and Hammer. Dr. Clark. To be fair, Norwegian and Danish names can be quite similar. Yeah. But some of the English sources seem to refer to them as their Norwegian comrades, so that's why I'm going with Norwegian. That's good. It's worth noting that Janissaries often were the true power in the Ottoman Empire. A number of sultans were removed by Janissaries, deciding that they preferred someone else. Yeah, the Janissaries could be quite scary when they wanted to be. So, in about, let's see, 1656, the Ottomans have their own dramatic change in leadership. And this new person put is a new Grand Vizier, i.e. Prime Minister, pretty much day-to-day manager, organizer of the empire. But unlike the previous ones, he has the full support of Sultan. He has pretty much supreme powers. And his role is to sort of stop the war being the war. And the reason is because he's done this, is because in 1656, the Venetians have achieved what they've wanted to do. Thanks to the groundwork laid by Morrissini in 1655, in 1656, Marcello's combined Venetian Maltese fleet defeats the 67 ships, defeats the 108 ships under Kenan Pasha in the worst naval defeat since Lepanto. 60 Ottoman ships were destroyed, 24 captured, and 5,000 Christian galley slaves set free. Although the Venetians and Maltese suffered some casualties too, it wasn't that bad. But more importantly, they lost they lost Captain General Marcello. So at this point, the Morrissini-Marcello pairing, which had been winning the war for the last 2 years, is broken up because Marcello is dead. At this point, and then, so the Maltese do not like Barbado who has to be put in charge of afterwards, and so they go home. But Barbado, under the very strong guidance and instruction of Morrissini from Crete, managed to take Tenedos and Lemnos on the 8th of July and 20th of August. So with those two islands, they managed to not only blockade the Dardanelles to stop the Ottoman fleet coming out of Constantinople down to Crete and, the large force that could get there, but they also stopped food going up to Constantinople. That caused a problem. Osprey 28, all hail the blessed Blackman. Oh, good Lord. That's disturbing on so many levels. Thank you, though, for the thank you for the money that will go to my Iron Brew Fund. Okay. Buckemir, hello. Haven't seen you in a while. Is this where the Ottomans get to use the holy ash can of Antioch? No. Learning 343. Could you just start tracking in the future if chats contain a sufficient appreciation? Oh god. Oh, I'm going to end up having to do a video on the Blackburn, aren't I, for you all? Alvaski, I understand the Venetians were unprepared, but this war should be finished within a year. Blockade Dardanelles, cut out off Crete, land your forces, supply them while denying this the Ottomans and done. Yeah, pretty much. That is what should have happened. The Venetians are winning these battles at sea. They should be able to just... Oh, for God's sake, how badly can you run a war? The Venetians are doing it all. It's just... On a strategic level, yes, they're distracted. Yes, they've got other things going on. But, come on. Oh. Turning through. I'm okay with a 10-hour special on Shinju goes hot. Tsingtao goes hot. But could we have a 20-hour special on the Black? Ablaski, I can imagine that the galley slaves were not extremely enthusiastic in defending their ships during the boarding. No. Whereas most of the Venetian galley most of the Venetian oarsmen were actually paid oarsmen. So the Venetians weren't as trusting of slave oarsmen as the Ottomans were. Or perhaps in the nicest way, it's shortage of personnel because you've got other things to do. No, I didn't see the light. I just decided that the only option to get a stop Blackburn becoming a feature of every single chat from now on is to do a video on the Blackburn. Oh, right. So, the new Grand Vizier has a bit more fun. So, he puts under command the new fleet under the command of Kapun Pasha. Now, Kapun Pasha Topal Mehmed, who is fairly decent at actually running ships. So in March of 1657, sorry, I'm laughing now. The Ottomans succeed in evading the Venetian blockade of the Straits and sailing towards Tenedos. They decide not to attack the island this time because its garrison is just too strong. Its garrison is pretty darn powerful at this point. However, how have they managed to get out? Well, they've got out because the Venetians under Lazzarendo Mocenigo are having a lot of trouble because, how do I put this politely? He has the Papal States, he has the Knights of St. John, and he has the French, and they're not cooperating, so they don't get into proper position. And actually, Mocenigo is then killed when his flagship is blown up during a battle on 9th of July. And this is one of the first battle that the Allies lose, the Christian powers lose at sea. However, they lose the battle, but as is usual, they've inflicted far heavier casualties on the Ottomans than they themselves have received. But the blockade's broken, and then Lemnos and Tenedos fall. So the whole thing that they've achieved, which had been achieved previously under Marcello and Morrissini, that had managed to secure and give them a victorious year, has now been lost. They've lost it all. Oh. I don't know. Anyway, so the Siege of Candia is next. And after when this is over, I will take full questions about this and about whatever else comes up, as always. Austin Hammond, hello. Greetings, perfect time, and my brew just got delivered. Excellent. Oh, Stephen White Day, wish it. Hello, Carl Gunn. Right, so Siege of Candida. Now, this is quite a cool thing because one of the things I really like about this map is you can clearly see the Trace Italiane fortifications which they put around Candia. These weren't completed, okay? They had all these plans for these beautiful fortifications and these things. They hadn't completed them. They've been working on for nigh on 60 years. They still haven't completed them. Hello, Federico Vega. Which war, Federico? Which war is this? It is the Cretan War or the Fifth Venetian Ottoman War of 1645 to 69. Jeff Beeler, Francisco Morrissini, dressed always in red from top to toe and never went in action without his cat beside him. I'm not sure if that's true, but that is pretty darn cool if he does have a fluffy battle assistant. And You might as well. Anything for luck. As I was saying earlier, sailors are a superstitious group. So, the whole Siege of Candia is quite interesting. I give classic example is let's see, Siege. Right, this is a classic example of what happens at the siege of, during the Siege of Candia. Let's see. So, in 1666, Venetian attempted to Venetian attempts to recapture Lancania fails, but then the following year, Colonel Andrea Borazzi, a Venetian military engineer, defects to the Ottomans and gives them information on weak spots in Candia's fortifications. Yeah. On 24th July 1669, a French land sea expedition under Morrissini not only fails to lift the siege, but also loses the fleet's flagship, a 910 warship armed with 58 cannons, which explodes due to accidental disaster. And yeah, basically, so many people get killed during this war. Classic example is on. Let's see. This is, I think, between 1666 and 1667, the Grand Vizier turns himself to take part of the fight, and on the 19th of June of 1668, 3,000 about 3,000 troops under the command of Francois, Duke of Beaufort, arrive at Candia. And they decide to get involved in a fight. They decide to do a sally on the 25th of June. They manage to very successfully catch the Ottomans on the hop, but they become disorganized in siege trenches. The Ottoman counterattack drives them back, and the French lose some 800 troops, and the Duke of Beaufort himself was hit by a bullet and left on the field dead. You know, the whole time, it's just a lot of elan, a lot of great stuff going on, and then, oh my, we've lost again. The Siege of Candia is just non-stop. What the? And it's the defenses could have been so much stronger so easily if they'd been worked them properly. Danny Freeman, stereotype alert. Italian efficiency in building defenses. They have a lot of great plans. They just don't actually complete them. So, they're not the Roman army, let's say. JP Candia, Helicannin during World War II. Yes. And again, I'm not going to draw too many parallels between the British defence of Crete and the Venetian defence of Crete. But a little bit of organisation, a little more action, please. Just saying that, you know. All this all this discussion ain't satisfaction for me. Brendan Axon, hi. We'll only be here for 30 minutes because of school. Well, thank you for being here, Braden. Hope you're enjoying it. Buccaneer, when did they use the Holy Ashcan antidote gun? That's in different wars. They use all sorts of things. Tim Sims, terrific erase the Romans. Terrific. Yeah, honestly, one of the interesting things is please do look across. It'll be on the right of your screen. Look at all these mines and counter mines which they have. This is siege engineering that is taking place over 20 years of construction. So one of the interesting things about it is that quite a lot of maps and quite a lot of investigations of this campaign are done during the First World War, because people want to understand trench construction. And there's a lot of trench construction, and there's a lot of mines and countermines done by the Venetians and done by the Ottomans to try and undermine the defenses and to undermine the attacks on the defenses. It's pretty darn cool, all the stuff that's going on. And you'll notice on the bottom right, there is a plan of what the defenses should have looked like. If you look at the sort of top left of that picture, you'll see what the defenses actually are. Do you notice there's quite a few things missing? Just a few things missing. I don't know. It's just, So what goes wrong? What's the summary? The question is often, how did the war on paper, superior maritime power lose a war over an island? How? They kept winning the sea battles, but they lost the war. Because in the end, all they were contesting for was dominance of the sea in many ways. They weren't contesting for control of the sea, because they never had the fleet that would enable them to control the sea. Because controlling the sea is not just about your major battle fleet. Your battle fleet wins you dominance of the sea. That is what your battle fleet can achieve. But without the frigates or the smaller forces to go around and provide presence, you can't control the sea. And you need to control the sea, because controlling the sea is how you can guarantee your supplies getting through. Both the Venetians and the Ottomans could lose supplies. The Venetians were very able to keep their things supplied. The Candia is always getting supplies and always getting things delivered. So it's never really at the thing of running out of supplies and falling that way. So the siege has to be broken by storm. And here's some really quite terrible facts. The war cost 62,000 people dead for the Venetians, it's estimated. 238,000 for the Ottomans. And Crete's population drops from an estimated 280,000 to 80,000 or less. Buck Amir, I agree with you. In fact, honestly, I'm just going to allow that one because you have starred it, but in future, yeah. It's just not a good fight for anyone. And this is the really interesting thing, because when we're talking about the Ottomans, you'll often hear about they get stopped at various gates, various major powers. They get stopped by the Habsburg Empire or the Holy Roman Empire at this big battle, at this best battle lad. No. Those battles they might lose, they might win, but they don't suffer the losses they've suffered due to the Cretan War. The Cretan War has wiped out an entire generation, virtually, of senior officers, and of middle-ranking officers, and junior officers. They've lost engineering officers. They've lost all sorts of ranks of trading personnel. And all they win for it is basically a decimated island. After this war, the Ottoman Empire reaches its peak. Venice is falling. They've lost their jewel. That's gone. So the Venetian Empire is gone. But the Venetian Empire, to take the Venetian Empire out and to take what should have been an easy win from the Venetian Empire, has cost the Ottoman Empire its soul. It's cost it its core. And yes, the Ottoman Empire won't go into immediate decline, but there is a reason this is the peak of the Ottoman Empire. From this point onwards, they are in trouble. At this point onwards, they know they have issues with the Janissaries. They know they have issues with all the different forces. They know they have problems. And to build up the forces, because of the way this war has gone on for 20 odd years, it limited the ability of them to influence events happening in their wider empire. It has allowed a lot of areas in their supposed Ottoman Empire to get very, very strong under local control. So suddenly, instead of it being an empire, it's far more of a federation. They have a lot of very powerful lords in charge of their fiefdoms that they've carved out for themselves, and they now have to deal with this. And it's a legacy of this war because of what it does to Ottoman trade and Ottoman communications. So the Ottomans win it. They lose some lands in Dalmatia to the Venetians, and the Venetians are, never going to be the same. And frankly, the Venetians should have won, but they never managed to put in the money, the consistency needed to win. It's kind of an interesting scenario because Venice depends on the sea to survive. It depends on access to trade. The trouble is for the Venetians at this point is this war comes at a time at which the Dutch and the English and the Spanish and the Portuguese are all hunting and have all been hunting and establishing trade routes around the world, which cut out the Levant, which cut out the middleman, which is what the Venetian money, the Venetian entire commercial things have been based on, has been being their part of the traditional routes. Getting supply, picking up spices, picking up dyes, picking up all the luxury items from one part of the Mediterranean and taking it to the other end of the Mediterranean. That has been how they've made their money, and they're losing it because the other powers are going elsewhere. So that's why they've never really had the money to be able to focus into the war, and they've been doing just enough really to keep the war going to try and win. Right. Let's see some questions. Those trenches, Valvazaski, those trenches look like an ant's nest. They look very much like an ant's nest. That's good. Pardon me hopes one of Dr. Washington and raise it. Oh, no, I hope. Well, they might do. At the moment, it's all online tutorials, so it's not really how much fun for them. Jeff Hillett, Crete was valuable at the beginning, but by the end, it was a husk of itself. Pretty much. So you fight a 20-odd year war to get something which is valuable, and by the time you fought it, you've damaged it so much it's no longer worth anything. Buccaneer, sieges invariably have high body counts due to disease Roman wounds. P.S. Sorry about the language, Doc. I'll try to behave. Don't worry. The only reason I moderate the language at all is because my little cousins watch it and I don't want to get their mums trying to hunt me down and hurt me. We won, but at what cost? That's pretty much what the Ottomans are looking at. That's good. Dr. Clark, with the quality of officers who are involved in this war, that might not be an entirely bad thing. The trouble is, whilst the senior commanders proved interesting, a lot of the more junior commanders were actually very good at their job, and they lost them as well. Well, later wars in Hungarian and Ukrainian theatres operation are trying to regain momentum is interesting, and losing real control over Tunis and Algeria. Yep. Banham, in many ways, the effect of this war seems to be close to the effect of the First World War. It does have some impacts. But okay, this is interesting stuff. Totally changed perception on the Venetians. Yeah, well, the Venetians are actually a powerful maritime force. And in many ways, I would consider them the proto-maritime empire for what Britain becomes. But there is a small difference in that, as the First World War and the Second World War shows, Britain will spend any amount of money, any amount of treasure, any amount of required investment to maintain their maritime power, to maintain the 100% at all levels. the Venetians are prepared to put a mighty battle fleet to sea, but they don't really understand the concept of, well, do we need more than a battle fleet? Do we need to more than fight a big battle? Because they think in terms of campaigns. They don't think in terms of war. They think in terms of campaigning seasons. It's sort of a lack of a joined up strategic outlook. And the various commanders who do have this idea, unfortunately, get lost or get moved to other commands because they're doing well and this command isn't doing well. So we'll just take him from there to there. And you sit there and go, but he was great in that position. Leave him there. Send out someone else to the command there. Anyone can command in a siege. All they need to do is make sure their engineering officers don't go off and tell the Ottomans where all the weaknesses are. I think this war was a factor, but the Ottoman Empire had gone to the point where it was too large to administer effectively. Also, a series of weak sultans who were ineffective. Yes, but it's going to sound strange. The reason they're unable to govern effectively is because they actually require, if you look at the Ottoman Empire, it requires to get to the major hubs, sea travel gets to the vast majority of major hubs. And the moment you interrupt sea trade as much as was interrupted during this war, especially for the duration of this war, that's when those hubs start to grow as independent powers. You can have this large empire as long as you can effectively communicate with those different points. The moment you can't communicate, that's when you're in trouble. Turning 3434 on topic. What was the Ottoman share in the Venetian Mediterranean spice trade? Well, the Ottomans wanted to get involved in the Venetian Mediterranean spice trade, and they thought that if they took Crete, they would get far more of it. They didn't seem to understand that it wasn't the Venetians hogging the spice trade. It was the fact that the spice trade was disappearing and not going the traditional routes. See, Mike, the scale is smaller than, say, the Roman siege of Jerusalem about 1,500 years earlier. Naval seems to advance more than land campaign, to an extent, but also it's a technology of the time, as Golden Eagle points out, and also you have to remember that's the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire at their height are tremendously good at one thing: logistics. They are tremendously good at logistics. The reason the Romans win most wars is because they're organized and bureaucratic, and they have very good logistics and very good distributed command, which is one of the reasons why when people go, oh, the Ottoman Empire was too big to administer effectively, I go, well, the Roman Empire was even bigger, and they managed to administer that quite effectively. And the reason they're able to do that is because they're able to use sea internally. That's why the Roman Empire sort of has an extent it extends, but it's really more a Mediterranean empire, i.e. we control all the coast around the Mediterranean, and the sea is our internal communications network. And we control a certain distance in land. But the sea is the critical point for speeding up communications and getting things working together. Blackamere, what were the respective fleet trains like? They didn't really have them, as we would understand them, by any stretch of imagination. They sent out reinforcements and they brought supplies for them. See what? A few hundred years earlier in Malta and around the Levant, the Europeans starting to manufacture weaponry, while Ottomans crafted slowly and takes longer time to renew its power. Yes and no. The Ottoman arsenals are actually very, very good and very high tech. One of the interesting things I found is, of course, that the Ottomans produce. Let's look it up. I have it somewhere. I am Muhammad. Where is it? Let's see. I have its picture somewhere. Right on. So, this is the Mahmudi, which is an Ottoman flagship built in 1829, 128 guns, one of the few first-rate ships in the world, and it is built. It is built by the Imperial Arsenal, which I talked about earlier, the one at Golden Horn, of the Ottoman capital of Constantinople, otherwise known as the Tesane-el-Emai, and that had been first established in 1454. So this is one of the centers of imperial military strength in the Ottoman Empire. It had been going 200 years by the time this war began. It had been going nearly, well, about, must be 375 years roughly by the time that the Mahmudiyya is built. 370 years. It's, it's 375 years. This is a very, very good institute of construction. The trouble is they have to supply a lot of troops in a lot of places because they never really focus their wars. That's good. Well, I think it's an issue of logistics. Romans are able to maintain large forces in the field in a way that wasn't really seen again until the advent of modern warfare. To be fair and brutally honest, that is one of the reasons why I rate Wellington higher than Napoleon. He's far better at more able at organizing logistics. Although he does have an advantage in that his logistics is usually taken care of for him by the Royal Navy. So they do quite a good job. World War I comparison. If Cretan War and 30-year War are treated as one World War, then it's certainly, yeah, you can do. Golden Eagle, two minister, sign no excuse. The Chinese Qing Empire was doing quite well, and there's more to it than size, as I've pointed out. Roads and canals. It's roads, canals, and logistics. Jermac, throw in also Northern War of 1655 to 1660, and we get Great War remodeling. There is a lot of fighting going on. 2343, thousands of years building up a government. That does help. Banham, how much do you think roads was a factor in making the Romans that good? Any? A little? Having control of these islands helps. The Ottomans have control of roads, and that's critical for supplying their forces in Crete. So, having control of these islands does help, and islands help with control of the sea, especially when you're relying on the sea for your internal communications. Oh, been nagging on me all week. Pizza haggis? Haggis pizza, yes, with pepperoni. Iron brew. Any pictures? Must have evidence. Friends don't believe me. Look up. Okay. If you're interested in the pizza with haggis, there you go. There's a link in the chat to Pizza Punks in Newcastle. It's a wonderful place to go. As I keep calling them, Punks Pizza. That's good. The Roman Empire had the benefit of having province governorship being appointed rather than hereditary. No one family can end up ruling an area and threaten the integrity of the empire. Does help. Also, the Romans have a very effective method of getting rid of people who are incompetent. Works quite well. JPL, what were the French under Duke of Beaufort up to in Tunisia during this war? In Tunisia, not really doing that much successfully. And as we've been over, in Crete, managing to get himself killed. John, we are having similar discussions regarding Qing Empire and their collapse in the 19th century. Daniel Hammett's squad. Well, there's quite a lot of the imperial powers that revolt to take the imperial throne. Secession was never really a goal for them. Yeah, that's the thing. They want they want it all. They don't want one little bit, and that's the trouble. The Ottoman rulers sometimes want one little bit, and that's more annoying. The problem is that the king almost always internalized the wrong answers to their problems following a war. Probably. John Emmett, at the clock. What would happen if a tribal Goering showed up at Trafalgar? There would have been no French or Spanish survivors. Seriously, none. None. I know that's soft. As I said, this is now open. This is now the question answer open time. So I'm happy to take questions on pretty much any naval topic, but if I can answer them. But it is the thing is, if a tribal or a Goering showed up at Trafalgar, there would be nothing surviving at Trafalgar or things. And thank you again to Osprey for that very nice donation for the Brew Fund earlier. John Surnoff, deep fried battered haggis and chips is the best thing ever, as long as you can handle the heart attack. This is why I do. I now have an exercise bike at home, and I'm now, well, after having not visited the gym in about since March this year, so 6 or so months, I am now working back up to the hour I used to do on a bike. And so far, I've been doing it for about a week. This is my third rest day, so I've been doing it for 9 days. I do 2 days, then take a rest day because I'm getting back into it. And I've managed to get it from to the top of 50 minutes. So I'm getting to 50 minutes before I absolutely And what I do is I do a big, I do sort of start off with 30 minutes, then 20 minutes next day, took a rest day, 40 minutes the first day, 30 minutes the next day, rest day, and then 50 minutes, 50 minutes the first day, 40 minutes, and then rest day, and then I'll do an hour tomorrow and hopefully survive. Fun times. Getting back to be healthy after COVID. And all that pizza looks lovely. I did have a pepperoni pizza for lunch as well. / breakfast. It's a bit early. Benjamin Johnson, I think defense of Mediterranean islands like Malta by the Templars shows the importance of controlling the sea lanes. It was the Knights Hospitallers, I think, in Malta, and they do an important job. But they're also the Knights of Malta who calls the issues here. Hello, Roland Cash. Dope Squad. Emily, let me introduce you to a little friends, the quick-firing 4.7-inch Mark 12. Actually, I was just thinking the 40mm pom-pom on the tribals. That could shred most of those wooden ships to pieces. Save a lot of ammunition as well. You could use the 4.7s for destroying most of the forts. Jeff Miller, why did Venice not settle for peace in half of Crete? Because they wanted it all. They thought the French were coming, and they thought the Duke of Beaufort would wipe out the Ottoman forces on Crete, and then they would get it. They're just silly. They just do that, and it just the whole point. There are all sorts of options. Plus, they also probably understood that if they didn't actually get, if they settled for the Ottomans having control of any part of Crete permanently, then it wouldn't be long before the Ottomans would do a surprise attack again. And so either they'd have to keep a permanently large military force there next door to the Ottomans, which is a recipe for another war, and costs a lot of money, or the Ottomans or they just lose it to the Ottomans next time around very quickly. Osprey, have you ever tried haggis stuffed chicken breast? I am part Scottish. What do you think? Goning, also, China's coal is situated in the north. Population economic center was in the south, unlike Britain. Coal in the north, population economic center in the south. Yeah, pretty much disagrees with Britain. But we also have some population centers up in the north as well, and industrial centers. All around us. John Murray, I am brew. I drink Mike's. Frederick, how's the shed coming? It's coming in late October, early November, hopefully in time for us to do the Taranto night thing. Should talking about Nighthorn Productions. Got to shoot now. Great talk as always. I just say RAP INS Virat AKMS HMS Hermes R12. She arrived at Alang today for her last days of full ship. It is sad. Take care. Thank you, Nighthorn Production. It is sad she's gone. Benjamin Donaldson. Haggis and the stunnery black pudding worth. Ooh, I'm not sure about a black pudding. I like the haggis. Calvin Gamson. Read Trafalgar. The most lethal World War II ship would be a Liberty ship filled with ammo. That would definitely have managed to do quite a lot of success. Take care, Artyom Astron. See you won't. Thanks. I'll see if they will deliver. Fly over to Vegas and I can go meet. Oh. John South. Although one of the chippies had the stone supper, a deep fried and battered kebab that was 1,000 calories. Oh my goodness me. John Emma, I no longer live close enough to campus to walk to class, and my wife is a good cook, so it has been a lot of lose due to COVID. Trafalgar, are you still on a track for a Trafalgar special? Yes, I'm going to do Consequences of Trafalgar because, as I said, Kate Jameson does a brilliant stuff every year on Trafalgar, so I'm not going to muscle in on her area. But I'm going to do Consequences of Trafalgar quite happily, and that's going to be organised. So that's going to be November's fun. Or hold on. So yeah. So you hoping SpaceX gets that 1 hour anywhere in the world flight going. Ooh, that could be fun. How long would it take for the splinters from a first rate to stop falling from the sky after a 1940s torpedo hit? Well, as long as it was impact detonation rather than magnetic influence, and as long as the torpedo was riding high enough in the water that it actually hit it, a while. Mm-hmm. Carl Hammond, hello. Back in here. This has been an interesting. Is there any recommended reading suggested anywhere? Yes, I have some recommended reading which I can add to this stuff on these things. When I was looking for it, I managed to get digital copies of to read. Fleet Faroki and Kaspar's 2006 The Cambridge History of Turkey, the later Ottoman Empire, 1603 to 1839, published by Cambridge University Press, which was very, very inclusive, but oh my God, was it heavy going, but very inclusive. I also enjoyed, I've got a copy of Frederick Chaplin Lane's 1973 produced Venice, a Maritime Republic, which I always find quite cool. It's a bit out of date in some things now, but I consider it quite cool. And there is Stephen Turnbull's The Ottoman Empire, 1326 to 1699, produced by Rutledge, which I also found useful. I'd also say that there is Just checking the link's still working, because I have it copied and pasted to a PDF. But I want to check the link's still working, because if it's not working, then there's no point me giving it to you. Come on, link for me, baby. Come on, let's link. Let's work. Ah, yes, it's still working. And Naval Wars of the Levant by R.C. Anderson. It's very, very old, but I find it quite cool because it's got some interesting sources in it. And I've put a link to it in the chat. Benjamin Honest, the first shots would blow the mast, and the destroyers would just eat them alive like sharks. Yeah. That's good. It's an issue with most people who think that they have some divine right. They tend to act without fully taking account of the full consequences of their actions. Can we get a few vids of you making your new office, Carmen? Possibly. It's gonna be probably constructed by professionals to build to quickly erect the shed, because that'll be me. It's more quickly erected. If it had come in the summer, I would have probably done it myself, because it would have been nice and sunny and I could have got it done, and I wouldn't have had day-to-day teaching and those sort of things as well to deal with. But as it's coming at the time it is coming, it's going to be built, and then I'm going to build the internals. So I'm going to fit out the insides. So basically the externals, all the insulation, electrics is going to be put in by professionals. And then I'm going to do the internals. So I'm going to do the internals for my sister's office and for my office. And that's going to be my time. I'm probably going to end up having to take a couple of days off work anyway. But, I'll schedule a research week and video it while I'm doing it. Well, once this whole pandemic affair ends, I might have to bring out my lordship and go and trade for some of my brew. Longship and go and, yeah, that's always a good thing. Going on. Difference in Britain is the size of the Chinese fronts. Transporting Chinese coal from north to south is like transporting coal from Bradford to Gibraltar. Ooh, that could be fun. Simpson, upgrade Lion manned by drunken Canucks who have just won a hockey tournament with Princess Royal manned by drunken Brits who've just won a soccer matches versus 2 Martian tripods. Who wins? The drunken Canucks. The drunken Brits will be hunting for food. Get Kane Jameson on your YouTube for Trafalgar. Not sure about that. I'm probably going to try and get her onto bilge pumps, because originally she was actually considered one of the. We asked her, and we were hoping she was going to be on bilge pumps as part of the crew, but she was so busy with other work she hasn't managed to make any of them yet. But she is amazing, so we'd really love to do something special with her for Trafalgar. Come on. Oh my god. Someone donated $100. That was very nice of Osprey. Martin Hammond. So would an early USN Mark 14 actually been useful against a ship of the line? If you could make it run shallow enough, yes, it could have theoretically been quite useful. John, I think the corvettes of 1943 would have had a field day at Trafalgar. Honestly, there are so many. Escorts of Taffy 3 versus all Napoleon's Navy would probably won. I'm actually thinking of support group number 2, the sloops of the Black Swan class sloops. I think they'd have had a field day with the forces at Trafalgar. They could have wiped out both navies quite happily. Garmin, I know where I work is having a shed to keep out old panels for display to free up space inside our actual source. Cool. That's good. Pretty much any 1900s vessel would dominate Trafalgar. The advances in armor, weaponry, fire control. Well, yes, if you really want to win Trafalgar, just take HMS Warrior back. Could we expect to see Jingles or Chieftain on Billfronts? We'd certainly have them if they'd come. So far, as was found, it seems wherever I am. I think actually, now this is the thing, because I was in. I filled in for Jingles on Armchair Admirals last Friday, and it was a lot of fun. But I am starting to wonder if Jingles is really a mythical person, because wherever I go, he's not. He just wherever I go, he's not. It's Oh, fine. Hopefully he'll join us on Build Trump at some point. The squad. I think it was so generous of Osprey that you should read the message again. No. However, I might. I might look into thinking about what I'm going to do on the 29th of October, on the 27th of October. I might give that a thought. How's that sound? I might consider doing something on the Blackburn, and well, I might do Blackburn aircraft as a whole, as I think I have their book somewhere. Do the early Blackburn aircraft of the 1920s. Seeing like Ottoman Decline, when and why? Post-Crimea and finished or reborn at Gallipoli. Basically, there's Ottoman Decline and there's Turkey's rise. You always have to remember, post-Gallipoli, the Ottomans go, it's pretty much Turkey rises. So it's as a contiguous group. It's a contiguous organization. They might still have the same names, but it's not really the Ottoman Empire anymore. Garasowski. It is a very Brit thing I've found. We love our sheds, inspirations, they are very nice. It's a great place to have an office. I can have soundproofing. It's going to be excellent. Oh, I don't know. All right, so that's good. The Ottoman Empire tried to divert the anger against the empire by directing against other areas of the empire. Especially problematic was the agitating of the Sunni Shia division. There were all sorts of. The Ottomans were very good at planning, divide and control, but it wasn't really successful. Oh, hello to Big Brzezinski. I don't think I've seen you in a while. I feel we in chat may have to track down the ship, tank, and small arm equivalents to the Blackburn. Oh. Ship equivalent of the Blackburn, that's got to be one of the French vessels. Honestly, they produce some ugly ships. The French really do produce some ugly ships. Seriously ugly ships. I mean, why ships? Tanks. The Russians. Some of the Russian interwar heavy tank designs are frankly, oh my god, what happened to your eyes, man? Small arms, first generation M16, first generation LA80, LA90, SA90. Yeah, there's all sorts of options for the first generation small arms. Bound home. Yes, but the whole point about bilge pumps is we mix the heavy with the light. So we bring in some heavy stuff occasionally, discuss it. But we also bring in some light. It's like this week we're prepping for another China episode because China's been up to so much recently. Come on, Shed is answer to all problems in the UK. British people, I'm creative. I'm creative, Shed. I like working, Shed. I like thinking, Shed. I'm an inventor, Shed. I need space for video making, Shed. In my case, I need shed space for books and an office, so I can get quite a lot of this stuff out of my bedroom. Because if basically this room works well if I can take the bed out of here or if I can take the office out of here. It doesn't work well with both. With both, it's weird. That's good. The SAR tank might be a tank version of it. 2 massive wheels and covered in turrets. So, yeah. Tank, the Valiant, I think it's called. Don't be cruel about the Valiant. That and the Matilda weren't too bad. I quite like the Matilda. Oh, well. No, it's a fun thing. And yeah, what have we got coming up? Let's have a look. So we've got Model 1 in the Far East, Battle of Penang and Siege of Tsingtao. That's Thursday's one. Brew Ships 20, Brassies and James Special. London 5th, The Patronate, the Treaty of London 1930, with proposed by Daniel Freeman. And they've got 18 votes. On Thursday the 8th, that's when we have the King's College London Norton Seminar. So please do. I'm going to keep asking that, and I'm going to get Drac to do some advertising as well. The Lawton Seminar is really, really cool. It's a really going to do tribals, battles, and darings. So I'm going to go through them. Look at World War II Royal Navy heavy destroyer routes and why it was doing what it was doing when it was doing. This is going to be a really cool. They're planning Zoom, but they've got other options available should they have enough people, and they really want a lot of people because the more people who come, the more likely it is to get done again and again. And we want it done again because if these can be live streamed from now on, even when we're back from COVID and they are live streamed again, continue to be live streamed, they're going to be such a wonderful resource for people because you imagine it is the King's College London Lawton unit. That's their naval history unit of the War Studies Department putting on a free bi-monthly seminar where they get in, and I'm including myself in this because I'm first in the series, but I realize it's because I'm a guinea pig more than that I'm actually that good. That they get in the real creme de la creme of people to come and talk about their new books, their new research, their publications, and it's really, really interesting stuff. So it's worthwhile supporting. Shomak, the M16, even the first generation, was an excellent weapon. I have a friend who used the first generation of M16s in Vietnam. His exact expression is that they worked very well as a club. It took him about a year to get them to the point at which he was happy with them. Tim Sims, thanks, this was fun. I'm glad. Valiant A38 was the tank that the driver refused to finish the initial test run in, as it was so awful. Well, inside was interesting. Trying to get in there. John South, you may be confusing the Valiant tank with Valentine tank. That was so bad. The Valiant was so bad. The banned the trial and kept as a teaching aid of how to not to make a tank. No. Yes, I do realize what the Valiant is tank and the Valentine tank is, but actually, the Valiant tank as a concept is what leads to a lot of very good tanks. So this is why the Blackburn just leads to a lot of bad eyesight. So this is why I'm saying that you can't be too cruel about the Valiant tank. Link in description, please, to the Lawson from Racecar America. Yeah, I can put a link in. There should be a link down there anyway. If not, and so there's an our Racecar Meerkat. There's now a link down to the King's College Lawson seminar in the description. Jess P. Hello, Jess P. I got a ticket for the presentation. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I'm glad. The problem with the M16 was the same as Mark 14, Bureau of Ordnance. In this case, they changed the spec of the ammunition relative to what it had been designed for. Yeah. They changed the propellant and didn't chrome line breech and barrels like originally specified by Stoner, and no cleaning kits issued. Yeah, it's a lot of fun when people get involved. Jennifer, how long is the Lawson seminar due to last? It's supposed to be about 5:30 till 7 o'clock. So it's supposed to be 2.5 hours of about an hour's presentation from me and about 90 minutes questions. I think there's going to be Prof. Lambert involved and Dr. Alan James. I'm not sure which one is going to be chairing. You are going to get to see a whole lot of naval historians there, though, and chatting away. Mastaya Slavik, have you heard about the Battle of Lake Balakal? Let me just check, because I have heard something, but it might be a lake in Canada I'm thinking of. So let me check which battle, which one I'm talking about. Bakal. Ah. Part of the Russian Civil War. Cool. Interesting. Wow, they did some pretty cool stuff. The Czechoslovakian Legion did do a lot of fun things. As typical, the time the Americans and Japanese turn up, the Czechoslovakians had already fought their way through to Vladivostok. Helped make Czechoslovakia an independent nation. Cool. I'll have to look into it a bit more. Turning 3 USB praised they got the Iowa turrets redesigned under the. Yeah. Tim Sims, is it true Ark Royal was going to have a sister ship called Mercury? Not Mercury, but they did consider building a sister ship for her, but they went with the Illustrious class instead. It would probably. Let's put it straight. There are various names that were talked about and could have gone around, but the odds are if they'd been going to be called anything, it would have been, well, if you got Ark Royal for one ship in the class, that starts a precedent. So if you consider Illustrious, Victorious, Indomitable, Indefatigable, all these ships, they are named after sort of a thing, an emotion, a character trait. Ark Royal is being named for a great status symbol. So if you are building a new one, you're probably going to build, you've got to call it something of a similar name thing. So it's not going to be Mercury. So there's a whole debate as to what she would have been called, but I've seen various things which go along with. Warrior was an option, but they probably weren't going to go for that. And they weren't going to go for royal names, but they were considering Black Prince. Yes, Black Prince, which is another one which occasionally comes up. They didn't get the turrets redesigned. They rushed designed a new gun, and by some miracle, it actually was good. These things work. Yeah, thanks to the info. I can watch it all before going to work. Enjoy. Kolchak is a fascinating figure. Quite a lot of these ones in here as well. But again, will this seminar be available on YouTube for those of us unable to attend on the day? I think the Lawson Unit are going to look into making it presented somewhere. Yes. Probably not on my channel, maybe on the Lawton Unit channel, which they're talking about building. Graham Southey, surely HMS Hermes is a Mercury. Angerson, Ark Sovereign. No, they go for a traditional name. So the traditional one to go along with Ark Royal is usually along the lines of Warrior, Black Prince, and these sort of things. And I've seen both Warrior and Black Prince considered. Turning 3434. Question for Dr. Alex. How good do you consider Bottom with Rick Mayer and Ad Evanson, or those lads in general? Rick Mayer and Ad Evanson I usually like quite happily, and Bottom, I have actually never watched. I have no reference, so I'm not sure about that one. But those two are usually fairly good. They're usually fairly funny. Right. So it's 8 o'clock, and I'm thinking we're just about going through old naval history questions. So I might go and give the fluffy research assistant a bit of a walk. But let's answer last questions first. Tim Sims, I'm building a 1 to 400 scale what-if fleet. Ships that were cancelled or designed and never laid down. Black Prince will join Ark Royal my fleet. Thanks very much. It's the one I consider the most likely name of the ones being considered for her potential sister. So you want, why Enterprise? Was there an HMS Enterprise in Royal Navy pre-Revolution? Whatever, it's stuck in the USN. As a name in the USN, there will be new one launching soon. The Royal Navy's had an Enterprise for quite a while. Usually that's sort of quite a good thing. It kind of goes with fearless, intrepid, and all these things. It's one of these concepts which is quite nice. So that's awesome. Bit of a change of topic from my last pop in. It happens. So take care and safe walk. Best wishes always. Right. And for the 29th of October will be Amphion class cruisers. And before I go, as you've all kept talking about it, it would seem only fair. Blackburn, Blackburn. Avert your eyes now. Oh, I don't know. There you go. So for people who are wondering why the Blackburn keeps come up, I do consider it a pretty darn ugly aircraft. In fact, one of the most ugly that we ever had, that the Royal Naval Fleet Air Arm has ever flown. And yeah, I might well do something about it, as you're all asking so nicely and also disturbingly interested in this very, very ugly aircraft. Incredibly ugly aircraft. Right. Oh, it's not ugly, it's dependable. Oh, good lord. I have started the thing. They're going to have to start. Are they getting. This is a question for you all yet. Have they put a Blackburn into World of Warships yet? That's the thing. Are we going to start that campaign to get World of Warships to have a Blackburn in it? As one of the carrier aircraft. Anyway. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you had a good evening. Thank you Derp Squad, Golden Eagle, Greg Sotowski, Stephen White, Sean Mack, Stafford Thomas, Tim Sims, Turning 3434, Jack Hunter, Aviator Enterprise, The Big Brzezinski, Buck MR, and Jess P. Take care, everyone. And John Shea, Derek Hallahammer, hello. Take care. Thank you. Keelan19, thank you, everyone, for watching. Gordon Callens, thank you. And Dirt Squad, I think I succeeded in making the main vehicle of your channel. You probably have. You probably have. Take care, Tim. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you've enjoyed. Bye. Oh, and I am taking hints for this one, but please do subscribe and press the little bell if you like it, because I also, as well as getting advice from various people to keep on about these things, but also I do get messages from the lovely YouTube, which likes to give me analytical updates on the YouTube channel and tell me how I'm doing. And one of the interesting things it's got is that only 4% of people who subscribe to my channel have pressed the little bell, which I don't mind, but I did sort of looking at it and went, interesting. But then I thought about how many channels that I've subscribed to that I haven't pressed the bell on. And pretty much the bell, once I press the bells on, are about 5 of the 20 odd channels I subscribe to. So, yeah, it makes sense. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Take care. I am worried about all your devotions to the Blackburn. I find that quite disturbing, and I don't know, but take care. And as always, where else to find me? I think I've already done. Yeah. But thank you. Take care. Oh. Take care, everyone. Have a nice day.